Dust curled in thin spirals as Captain Darius Venn stepped over a collapsed beam, his boots clicking softly against the corroded alloy floor. The Zandari station was more carcass than structure. Rusted frames hung like exposed ribs, wires dangled like sinew, and the smell-dry ozone and ancient coolant clung to every surface. The silence had weight. Each breath through the mask felt like an intrusion. Then 6 meters below us, muttered Dr. Mara Solon, brushing grit from her handheld scanner. Her voice was muffled behind her breather, masked sharp, anxious. That thermal pocket is stable. It could be a data vault. Venn signaled the others. 3 more members of the archaeological team stepped forward with portable drills and excavation arms. Each movement echoed through the vast silence like footsteps in a tomb. No structural readings on collapse vectors, said Lena R. Holt, the mission's structural analyst, glancing up from her pad. We can breach. They began cutting through the scorched floor plating. Sparks hissed through the dark as thin lines of light sliced downward. A moment later, with a low metallic groan, the slab fell inward, revealing a reinforced cylinder embedded in the subdeck. Zandari make unmistakably ceremonial. Fractal filigree etched in iridescent violet along the rim. Its core sealed with a 7-latch hexacode lock. Looks intact, Solon whispered, descending the ladder as fast as she dared. Could be a backup archive. If we patch it into an isolated relay, we might pull something. Venn crouched beside her, unslinging a compact interface unit. No uplink, not until we know what it is. As the unit synced, the cylinder vibrated subtle, like a predator breathing. Blue veins lit across its surface. Venn shut it down. That's a tactical. A sharp click cut him off. The cylinder pulsed. Then alarm. The air vibrated as emergency glyphs flared along the wall. A cascade of Zandari script scrolled across nearby consoles, activating after decades of dormancy. A warning glyph blinked red and gold, spinning faster with every second. Self-destruct, Solon shouted. It's keyed. It thinks it's under attack. No, shut it down, Arholt yelled, scrambling for her interface. A high-pitched whine filled the chamber. Lights surged. The floor beneath them vibrated with charge. Venn didn't move. He watched the screen. Sequence failed. Lights flickered. Then darkness. The whine cut out for a heartbeat. Nothing. Then falling debris. Solon collapsed against herself. Breath ragged, sweat dripping from her temple. System failure, she said, still trembling. The station's too degraded. The charge couldn't synchronize. Venn ignored her. Patch in. Pull whatever you can before something else wakes up. Arholt's fingers flew across the interface. I've got partial data. Looks diplomatic. Layered encryptions. Earth territory format. Isolate and encrypt, Venn ordered. We're not broadcasting. Open, secure, link only. Use Obsidian channel protocols. Solon raised her head. You think this is worth Black Chanel? Something tried to erase it, Venn said. That's enough for me. On Earth, deep beneath Vanguard Spire in Geneva orbit, a man stood, alone before a darkened screen. General Thane Alric watched as a secure file, decrypted line by line, each character casting cold reflections on his face. The room around him was silent, concrete, steel. No windows only, the faint buzz of cooling systems and the soft rustle of synthetic fabric behind him. 4 others stood in silence, uniformed, decorated expressions fixed in the kind of stillness forged by decades of waiting. A single sentence blinked at the center of the screen. Zandari order classification. Strategic call. Authorization. High Tribunal. Confirmed source, said one of the officers. Verified triple-fold, Ulrich replied without turning. Encryption keys match Emberfall logs. Then, it's not news, another replied calmly. No, Ulrich agreed. It's confirmation. He tapped the console. Truth was never our concern, he added. Timing was the signal was silent, untraceable, quantum encrypted. It leaped from Geneva to Lagrange node 4, then bounced to a disguised relay, disguised as a weather array orbiting Titan. From there, it hit the final node, far above Luna, in a nondescript cylindrical satellite, known officially as Meteorological Survey Unit 14 Bravo. A green light flickered once. A dormant processor came online. The system blinked through 10 layers of failsafes, then fed a single line of code to its buried command matrix. Obsidian Theta confirmed, below the surface. Hidden compartments layered beneath decades of thermal camouflage unlocked with a faint metallic snap. Signal lines reconnected. Relay networks stirred. Dozens of subsystems across the solar net received the same instruction, not a call to arms, not a demand for mobilization, just a reminder. In a small relay station on Enceladus, a technician glanced at his screen and frowned. Telemetry spike on orbital band 3, he said to no one in particular. Looks like ghost code. He leaned forward. Then the screen stabilized. The anomaly vanished. He rubbed his eyes. Weird. Across the corridor, his supervisor shrugged. Solar echo. Ignore it. Back in the Geneva bunker, Ulrich turned to face the others. Begin non-disruptive synchronization. A young aide stepped forward from the side of the room. General, should we inform Civil Command or the Strategic Council? They'll know, Ulrich said, when it matters. The others nodded, in silence. No questions. Ulrich turned back to the screen. A map of known settlements rotated slowly, marked with dozens of symbols, some familiar, others far older. He placed a gloved hand against the glass. 31 years. He murmured. No one replied. Back on the derelict Zandari station, Ven watched the final packet of encrypted data complete its transfer. He glanced across the chamber. Solon was still pale. Arholt had gone quiet, her eyes fixed on the cylinder's faded runes. You okay? Ven asked. Solon wiped her brow. If I live another 100 years, I don't want to hear that sound again. Ven didn't smile. He reached for the cum. This is Relay Team Echo to command. Retrieval complete. Payload confirms hostile authorization by High Tribunal. Secure transfer in progress. Recommend immediate elevation to Obsidian Mirror Protocol. A voice responded, seconds later, crisp, male, emotionless. Acknowledged, Echo Black. Stand by for containment. No further action, authorized without review. Ven leaned against the wall and looked up at the exposed ribs of the ceiling, the dark web of forgotten circuits. The endless patience of a dead structure. Somewhere in another room, something sparked and died. Solon broke the silence again. What do you think it means? Ven didn't answer right away. He turned slowly, as if hearing something distant, then looked her in the eyes. It means the game is over. We've stopped pretending. The archive had been sent. The satellite had blinked somewhere. Systems were stirring that hadn't moved in decades. Somewhere else, men were watching clocks that had no numbers above the carcass of a Zandari station. Dust was still settling, but beneath it, something far older had already awakened. 31 years earlier, long before dust coated the surface of Veltron 5, before Myros bled vacuum through shattered domes, Earth had already seen through the lie. Not a theory, not a suspicion. Hard telemetry, engine signatures, vector triangulations, from deep-range satellites. The trajectories of the weapons matched no pirate faction. The blast patterns were too precise, too deliberate. Identical in method, identical in message. They had known. General Joran Rail stood alone in the first hours after. Corinne went dark, not grieving, calculating. 3 colony dots blinked red on the star map, each blink a metric. Each loss a new variable. No speech, no outrage, just a quiet turning of a display. 3 colony dots. Still blinking. His aide, young then and visibly shaken, had whispered retaliation. Rail hadn't answered immediately. He simply tapped a node, labeled Myro Sigma Agricultural Relay. Then he said, "No, not yet. We bury it." From that moment, Earth started preparing for a war it would never announce. In the Martian colony of Varel, a hydroponic facility completed 5 months ahead of schedule. Its public charter, nutritional algae processing and atmospheric enrichment. Beneath it, however, reinforced silos were being carved 10 levels deep. Concrete, mixed with heat-diffusing alloys, masked from orbital scans. No alarms, no banners. A civilian contractor signed the clearance form. Got a bonus on the mining moon Sovereign? Atmospheric scrubbers were upgraded to handle carbon variants. The upgrades were, in fact, field generators able to create sensor dead zones kilometers wide. Engineers called them shadow blankets. Environmental inspectors got clean reports. Gains in humidity, allegedly, in the outer fringe. A relay tower, disguised as a cosmic ray observatory, began a silent interlink test with a communications array 3 sectors beyond the neutral zone. No logs recorded the data. No civilian receiver could even understand the modulation. It wasn't deception. It was architecture. In Sector 12, inside the polar station Argentus Prime, a boy recited star navigation protocols in front of a console that displayed no stars, just color-coded quadrants and hundreds of blinking switches. His name was Tolan Rail. He was 15. Beside him stood a man with hollow eyes and a deep scar across his cheek. "When they move," the instructor said, pointing to a blinking corridor, "they'll come through there." Tolan didn't nod. He didn't ask why. He just asked, "What activates here?" "Nothing," the man replied. "Not until you say otherwise." That night Tolan stood before a different screen. The training center had no clocks, no windows, no personal quarters, only rotations, coordinates, lessons. This display showed diplomatic borders, clean lines, soft colors, labels that sounded like peace treaties and interstellar alliances. "The map is wrong," he said to no one. His instructor stepped behind him silently. Tolan gestured to the clean borders. "This is varnish," he said. "The real map vector paths fallback zones. Strain lines is underneath." The man said nothing. Then he nodded once. "Good. Then learn this too. Intent hides behind compromise. Treaties blur momentum. The Zandari will say peace, but to them, rotation is ownership." The Zandari were elegant ash-gray skin with bluish undertones, high-collared robes of shifting mesh, limbs elongated and double. Their eyes were solid black, and they blinked sideways. Often, nervous creatures. Despite their arrogance, they spoke with precision. Their mannerisms were practiced. They feigned horror at the past, but every Zandari inspection followed the same pattern. Delay, request, observe. In Geneva orbit, they were greeted with decorum, smiles, holographic presentations. In the asteroid belt, they saw orbital farms, and never realized the crop pods could fold inward to reveal railgun ports. They watched children chase drones that were, in truth, munitions programmed to respond only to human vocal DNA patterns. On Delta Cold Reach, they were invited to tour the cooling chambers of a deep-core reactor. When a valve ruptured, a human technician rerouted it, manually burning both hands. The Zandari noted it as a procedural flaw. No one filed a report. They approved thermal protocols, environmental reviews. They never scanned the magnetic lattice. Never realized the core was a drive, cradle housing 3 jump-capable warships. Every year, a new clause was signed, a new addendum, a new extension. Each time, Earth conceded just enough. Each time, another node was calibrated, another grid updated. Each civilian site became a phantom facility. No alarms, no betrayal, just precision. Tolan, now grown, stood in a command chamber with no insignia. Behind him, a younger cadre of officers reviewed projections that weren't labeled only They'd grown up in the silence. They thought it was normal. He stepped forward and opened the galaxy map. Colonies, neutral zones, cordial neighbors. He tapped a blue star in Zandari space, watched it turn gray. "Is that a target?" asked Lieutenant Aaron Vale, standing behind him. "No," Talon replied. "It's a calibration node." Vale gestured at the surrounding systems. "They're already aligned. One activation will trigger all of them," Talon said. "You'll know what to activate when the day comes. And if it doesn't," Talon looked back over his shoulder, "it will. No oaths, no fire, just cause and effect." Back in the diplomatic theater above Lyros Prime, Earth's delegation bowed with careful grace. A treaty extension was being signed, the Zandari smile-drobes flowing, mandibles twitching. They mistook Earth's patience for weariness. They had seen nothing. One of their chief inspectors, Kethan, leaned close to Earth's ambassador. "I reviewed the atmospheric stabilizers on Velisphore," he said. "Efficient, but primitive." Ambassador Lana Gray nodded. "We do what we can." "You hide your strength well," Kethan said, amused. Gray smiled. "No, Counselor, we're just very bad at war." Behind her, a quiet transmission updated, a red-marked Sector 2 ready. Children in outposts were trained to assemble regulators that were actually anchor points for kinetic shields. Their daily drills were emergency routines. At least on paper, no child called it war. No parent questioned the silence drills. Administrators filed reports tagged for internal energy audits, coded memos, directed power-down schedules, relay routes, and vendor shifts. No one ever asked why. They didn't need to. 3 decades passed. Still, Earth hadn't retaliated. Still no declaration. But above Titan, one satellite blinked again, and across every hidden frequency, a signal whispered, not a call to arms, a ghost, modulation, harmless to the unknowing, unmistakable to those born into the lie. No one called it war. They didn't need to. The system was awake, it was listening, and deep in the stars, it had already begun to remember. The announcement came without warning. 3 systems were ordered to evacuate, citing a resource equilibrium directive from the Zandari Inner Council. The message, wrapped in layers of bureaucratic pleasantries and ecological balance metrics, avoided words like sovereignty or consent. The systems were Keller 3, Brennix, Reach, Halvar's Edge, quiet colonies, functional, low profile, but vital. Keller ran deep coolant for orbital turbines. Brennick relayed trade data pulses to the neutral sectors. Halvar supplied water convoys to the midspine, and more importantly, they were positioned directly between Zandari-controlled space and Earth's outer trade lattice. The final sentence from the Zandari communique read, "Compliance will ensure harmony at the Terran Diplomatic Bureau in Geneva orbit." No one shouted. No one even frowned. Screens stayed lit. Advisors leaned over silent pads. Aides moved without a word. Within minutes, the request had been categorized and submitted to the Global Strategic Secretariat. 2 hours later, the public reply was released. The request is under consideration. Behind sealed alloy doors, 3 men sat in a pressure-sealed observation room. Director Sen Maris leaned forward. "They're testing our response time." Across from him, Commander Tolan Rail said nothing, eyes locked on a projection of orbital vectors, 3 blinking systems, each pulse, identical. Same as the interface his father had used 3 decades earlier. "They're careful," said Colonel Ezra Merrick, seated beside him. "No threats, no ultimatums, but the demand is absolute." "They're daring us," Maris added. "Daring us to push back? If we make it public, we look unstable." Talon finally spoke. "Then we don't push back. We show them what stable actually looks like." He stood, called a council. The Galactic Assembly was held aboard Illyrian, an ancient neutral citadel floating in Lange Drift 9, 7 centuries old, treated like holy ground, a domed hall of black stone and kinetic glass, laced with bioluminescent wiring, gifted centuries ago by the long-dead sorrel species. Over 100 races filled their designated tiers, each habitat modified to suit their atmospheric, gravitational, or sensory needs. The Terran seat remained empty as the session began. The Zandari spoke first. Counselor Valkyrin, tall and narrow even by his people's standards, shimmered in a robe of reactive crystal threads. A translator node along his spine pulsed faintly. "We present our request with deliberation and peace," he said. "The systems of Keller, Brennick, and Halvar must be rebalanced for mutual sustainability. High-energy colonies in those regions threaten long-term stability." He paused, mandibles twitching. "This is not an eviction. It is realignment." Whispers spread like ripples. Silence followed. Then the Terran signal came through. Without a single human entering the chamber, the broadcast overrode the feed. The ceiling dimmed. The walls flickered. Encrypted Earth command signature. Verified. Non-ceremonial channel. Tolan Rail appeared, sitting. No insignia. No background, just grayscale light and a blank wall. His voice was quiet. 31 years ago, the colonies of Myros, Corinne, and Veltron 5 were destroyed. He nodded slightly. Official records blamed piracy. A pause. That was a lie. The image shifted. 3 data overlays emerged, decoded fragments from the cylinder recovered in the Zandari ruins. Tactical glyphs, strategic signatures, authorization seals, all bearing the mark of the Zandari High Tribunal. Strategic culling, Tolan said. That was the term. Across the chamber, the Vazari, a crystalline species, retracted their voting crystals. The Numeri armored arthropods closed their hearing membranes. On the far tear, the Thurvians dimmed their ambient light. A known symbol of disapproval. No one interrupted. Tolan continued. "Earth will not retaliate. We will not negotiate." He looked directly into the lens. "We are terminating the Pact of Unity." Counselor Valkyrin stepped forward again. "This is a hostile act. You have no authority to," but the channel remained open. Tolan cut across him. "There will be no future sessions, no appeals. What was signed is void." He turned off screen. "Activate shadow lines. Begin the map." In Geneva, screens dimmed. Dozens of systems came alive. Relay nodes across Titan, Luna, Mars, and even Cygni Belt blinked in quiet tandem. On mining colonies, orbital farms, and relay towers, monitors shifted to monochrome. A single grid lit up. Names vanished. Coordinates realigned. Sectors shaded in muted gray. Back on Illyrin. Silence spread like contagion. Theory delegates stood frozen. Valkyrin's jaw twitched. The translator crackled. "You seek war," said another counselor, voice rising. But the screen was already fading. Talon's final words echoed before the signal dropped. "We don't seek anything. You offered the moment. We accepted it." The reaction was swift but not loud. Trade manifests rerouted. Sensor arrays, miscalibrated. Atmospheric scanners began pulsing in sync. With planetary orbits, it didn't look like war, but everything moved like it. Still, no ships launched, no weapons powered. Only the map dotted the tactical nexus beneath Argentus Prime. Tolan stood again before the central display. "The Council's seen it," said Lieutenant Veshtoler beside him. Some flinched. None moved. "They won't," Tolan said. "What? Now?" asked Merrick, stepping forward. Tolan looked at the cluster of red stars in Zandari space. "Now," he said, "we draw the line." He reached out and traced a single arc across the map. It pulsed red. Nodes along it dimmed to ash gray. "Do we send envoys?" Toller asked. Tolan didn't look back. He tapped the final node. "No," he said. "They spoke first." A pause. "We just stopped listening." Another pause. Send the protocols. Beyond the edge of Halver's Edge. A relay station coded as Agricultural Node 97 Epsilon dash shuttered. Panels rotated. Turrets deployed. Sensor arrays unfolded. No sirens. No alerts. Just alignment. In a nearby colony, settlers looked up. A platform. They'd always called the weather post was changing. The dish rotated. Containment ports opened. Triple-barreled rail cannons hummed to life. Still no messages. No broadcasts. On the far edge of Brennick's Reach, a deep space research facility, supposedly tracking meteor fields, opened its containment walls. From inside, quad-linked plasma arrays unfolded. The commander, Dr. Halen Vrose, stared at the console. I thought this was, ... double quotes, he whispered. A junior tech behind him answered. I thought this was a telescope. Vrose didn't respond. He turned to the window. 3 satellite markers blinked and vanished. 1, 2, 3. Across that same belt, civilian satellites shifted orbit in perfect sync. Their tags went dark. Their signals blinked into encryption. Over Halvar, a satellite deactivated its hologram, revealing a 30-meter pulse tower. It began transmitting, not a jamming. Signal, not noise. Silence, deliberate, unrelenting, strategic. At Argentus Prime, Tolan Rail watched the orbital schematic come alive. Corridors closed. Shells rotated. Every node responded. Civilian outposts, asked Lieutenant Taller. Talon didn't blink. Those who need to know already do. Those who don't shouldn't. The map shifted again in the Polari expanse. Base Zandari 72 detected motion. Scanners showed 5 human ships, 2 cruisers, 3 transports approaching silently. Where did they go? Demanded Commander Silkrev. Sandari Taktisiana no. Drive trails? No pings. A junior officer whispered. It wasn't them, sir. Echo, arrays, decoys. Then where are the real ships? No one answered, because there were no ships, only the illusion that they had already arrived. Across 12 systems, agricultural centers long assumed to be autonomous began pulsing subharmonic signals through orbital relays. Soil processors folded back, revealing sensor masts. Crop domes powered down, releasing dormant energy arrays. Long-range communication disruptors flared silent, surgical, synchronized. In Sector 8, a mobile medical transport run by Earth's civilian relief corps emitted a cloud of nanoscopic drones. Official reason: environmental recalibration. Actual result: total blackout across 3 Zandari recon hubs. Their long-range scanners died in static. Logic cores misfired. Phantom signals. Ghost fleets. Sudden panic. Inside Zandari Command, everything began to unravel. Fleet analysts screamed warnings. Too many anomalies. Too many false alarms. Too little cohesion. Orbital Channel 076. Commander Rel Thomases of the 3rd Signal Fleet received 8 conflicting priority alerts. He shouted, "Filter the noise." But the system couldn't. The noise was the message. Designed to overwhelm. Designed to feel real even when it wasn't. In the Arcos corridor, 8 civilian Earth transport ships broke from trade lanes. Massive, slow, boring. Or so it seemed. They engaged vector shifts. Outer hulls peeled back to reveal ports, weapon arrays, and defense grids. They did not fire. They didn't broadcast. They simply moved into formation. A crescent wall, across. The corridor, on LRA Delta, a technician named Kara Lynn stepped out for a smoke break. She looked up. The sky changed. Clouds split into columns of hard light. Above her, the shielding grid retracted. A dormant multi-ed satellite generator came alive after 24 years. A pulse rumbled. Her datapad vibrated. Every system locked down. She dropped the cigarette in the Zandari core sectors. Admiral Kelvector scowled at his readiness reports. 17 separate anomalies, shields, forming over human colonies. Interference, decoys. Silence. They haven't declared, said his advisor, turned Velk, a sharp-featured strategist. They haven't fired. Then what is this? Vector snapped. Another aide whispered, perhaps a bluff. Vector's eyes narrowed. Then verify it. How? No answer came. In Earth's command deck, under Argentus Prime, Tolan watched a live feed. The map no longer predicted. It described real positions, choke points, jammed sectors, fleets pinned by invisible forces. Status? He asked. Corridors sealed, said Lieutenant Taller. Drone saturation at 74%. No casualties. No engagements. Good, Talon replied. Eventually they'll understand, said Merrick. They already do, Talon said. They just don't believe it yet. One Zandari cruiser tried to exit via Delta Fran. Its helmsman corrected course. 2 more matched Vector. All 3 ships blinked out of telemetry. Contact lost, muttered Sub-Commander Harlan. Admiral Vector barked. Redirect use. Silent beam. Try Sector Varnick. Sir Varnick hasn't responded in 3 cycles. Try it anyway. The silent beam yielded. Nothing. Not even static. Across fragmented Zandari fleets, panic set in. Vessels scattered, hoping to regroup outside the influence of Earth's traps. But they found nothing. Just absence. One group attempted a maneuver known for centuries: containment reversal, a graceful flip. Destabilize the net. Break the grid. Mid-burn. Alarms. Screamed. GRA. Viflux. Trajectory failure. No external force. Just response. The field bent their own motion against them. One ship clipped another. The formation collapsed. On board the Creshfaun, Vector stared at a flickering feed. Where are they? He demanded. We lost them, whispered his sensor officer. 4 vessels unrecoverable. Vector looked around. No one spoke. They've anticipated every move, someone said. It's like they've been watching for years. No, someone else murmured. They've been preparing for decades. In the command chamber, Talon stood still. The blue arcs of Xandar movement blinked, vanished. Lieutenant Taller watched. They still think they're in control. Talon didn't turn. They still think there is control. Across fleet channels, override requests began bouncing back. Encrypted messages looped, distorted. Some came back before they were sent. Others returned, inverted code, inhuman encryption patterns. This isn't sabotage, said one comms officer. This is infestation. Another replied, or something worse. It's architecture. The panic spread. In Zandari Fleet Command, aboard the Urshel Dren, commanders gathered around a broken map. Nothing matched. Every model failed. Curves collapsed in seconds. They're not countering, said General Velthrin. They're erasing. The board send reinforcements to the Renhel pocket. We already did, replied Admiral Selk, 17 minutes ago. And they never arrived. No trails, no beacons, just gone. In System VAR 5, a recon drone returned something. Felt off. It flew correctly, but too correctly, too smooth. Too predictable. That's not ours, said the sensor officer. It's broadcasting inverted codes, said another. It's reflecting our systems. Then -ping. The sensor array imploded. Another strike group moved in on a faint human. Signal clustered, unmoving. They charged forward. The signal vanished. 3 ships spun uncontrollably, to recalibrate it downly, to find human support vessels silently blocking escape. They didn't fire, they didn't move, but the message was clear: nowhere to run. In Zandari Command, voices clashed. We've lost encryption. Come nodes, unresponsive. Shut down the sector mesh. Enough, barked Vektor. Silence. He scanned the room. Someone is feeding them our moves. Or, said a calm voice, they simply knew all along. At Sethan Reach, the logistics grid failed. Cargo vanished mid-transit. Hospitals blinked offline. Fusion cores delayed. Med supply routes reclassified as non-existent. Dr. Emra Levick, head of a sanctuary ward, stared at blank screens. "They're not shooting," she said. "They're cutting space itself." Above her, 5 cargo ships tried to escape. 3 human drones surrounded each. No weapons, no commands, just motionless presence. Captains tried escape codes. No era returned, just blank space. No stars to guide by. On diplomatic frequencies, Zandari envoys screamed, "You're violating humanitarian law. You're blocking lifelines. You're executing passive genocide." No reply came. At Erdena's command, Tolan watched sectors dim one by one. "Delta 9 and Vartha are sealed," said Talar. Talon nodded. He selected for more zones. Full lock. No exceptions. Even civilians. Talar asked. Talon glanced sideways. "Everyone," he said. On board the carrier Ven Krell, Commander Ornus watched ports go dark. "Not an attack," said his adjutant. "No," Ornus agreed. "This is containment." Another Zandari group attempted a lateral jump through gas belts. As soon as the chart's loaded coordinates vanished, waiting for them, human cruisers, silent, unarmed, unmoving, they tried to reverse. Another wall? No exits left. Drones circled every port. No weapons fired. No resistance needed. One by one, the systems went quiet. In the diplomatic corridors, Aid Velkar ran console to console. Every evacuation request, rerouted, denied, nullified. "Hi." Counselor Lorvath tried calling Earth's ambassador. Reply. "No diplomatic session scheduled." Line ended. "They're erasing us," he whispered. "What do we do?" There was no answer. Back at command, Talar spoke. "Final outbound vectors are collapsing." Talon nodded. "Inform Central Command." "No need. The map already has." He activated a broadcast. 10 words. "The war is over. You were simply the last to know." On board the Zandari dreadnought, Treshkar, Admiral Vector stared at a blank screen. How many surrendered? 8 full units. 3 unconfirmed. 1 retreating headed for Sarnaw. Neutral zone. "Do you think they'll follow us?" Vector shook his head. "If they wanted us dead, we'd already be gone." The 9th Fleet settled into orbit above Sarnal, a dead world. No signals, no defenses. Just dust, safe, they thought. But beneath the surface nothing was dead. Energy pulses, timed with tectonics. Heat blooms masked as decay. Signal camouflage embedded in planetary rhythms. Everything about Sarnal was designed. The first tower emerged. Then another. Then dozens. Steel teeth rose from beneath the sand. Targeting arrays locked. Silence held. Then containment shield activated. Gravitational vectors twisted. Escape became impossible. 1 corvette fired thrusters. It slammed against invisible mass, spun, crashed, across every band. A final message blinked. "You knew you were lying. We knew too. The difference is we never forgot." On the bridge of the Treshkar, Counselor Ishalon whispered, "They planned this for 30 years. Vector didn't turn. No," he said. "They lived for it."